I want to tell a little story. It's a story about maybe one of the 5 greatest basketball players to ever come out of the state of Massachusetts. His name is Chris Heroin. And Chris became a Boston Celtic, the greatest basketball player in Fall River history, drafted in the first round by the NBA, went to the same college I went to, Boston College. I want to give you an excerpt from remarks he recently made here in D.C. at the Unite to Face Addiction rally on the National Mall. Here's what Chris Heroin said. He said, "I truly believe that when it comes to prevention and education of our children, that we need to stop focusing on the worst days and start educating about the first day." At 18 years old, on the campus of Boston College, I was introduced to cocaine. I promised myself one time, just one line. That one line took me 14 years to walk away from. Despite myself, at 22, my dream came true. I was the 33rd pick in the NBA draft, but that same year I was introduced to a little yellow pill of 40 milligram OxyContin that cost a $20 bill. That 40 milligrams turned into 1,600 milligrams a day. And that $20 became $20,000 a month Oxy habit. And just 2 years later, that pill turned into a needle, and that needle stayed in my arm for the next 8 years. I often say that if you can't find it in your heart to have empathy for someone who is battling their illness, then you must know that he or she has a mother, father, son, or daughter that is at home with a broken heart that wants them back. Just one pill. Lives impacted. Some recover, many are lost. Another story from Situate, Massachusetts. Here's what she says. She says, "I have survived a fatal opiate overdose, yet I have never abused opiates. On November 13th, 2015, I spoke to my 27-year-old brother for the last time. Less than 30 minutes after our final conversation, he passed away from an opiate overdose. He was 16 years old when he first encountered the demon that consumed the better part of his adult life. Sadly, that same demon ultimately killed him. Injuries from a dirt bike accident left him with 2 broken arms, a knee injury, and what felt like an unending supply of prescription opiate painkillers. After his bones mended, he was left with an untreated, gaping, open wound that would never fully heal itself, an opiate addiction. During my brother's recovery, he painted a picture for me of how easy it was for him as a high school teenager and student athlete to call his doctor and request refills for his pain pill prescriptions. When he no longer had injuries to substantiate a prescription, he turned to illegal forms of opiates in both pill and intravenous form. Unfortunately, the damage to his brain had been done. There are many facets to what may cause someone to become addicted to opiates, and there are equally as many angles of attack before there is substantial progress to a viable solution. Mr. Senator, she wrote in the letter, I am writing to you because I am a survivor. I've lived through my worst fear by knowing that I can be a voice in helping prevent future deaths caused by opiate addiction. As you convene to debate the fitness of Dr. Robert Califf's nomination for head of the Food and Drug Administration, please ask the Senate to reflect on his time as Deputy Commissioner. As second in power at the FDA, he has had a chance to do something about these issues. It is time for a change in culture at that agency. And a final letter. It's written by a Stephen Jesse from Malden, Massachusetts. Here's what he says. I am writing to you as a longtime Maldonian and a father of a 33-year-old daughter, Stephanie, who passed away on December 13th, 2015, of a heroin overdose. Stephanie overdosed on Thursday, 2 days prior to her death, and was released by the hospital at 11:39 p.m. onto the streets. We've experienced this firsthand many times. Thank God for Chief Campanello of the Gloucester Police Department, who picked up the phone, talked to us, talked to Stephanie, and assisted us in every way they could to get her into treatment. Everybody else just said sorry. There's nothing that we can do. I believe that our medical community, along with the pharmaceutical industry, are grooming and developing drug addicts and putting them right into the hands of the cartels and the drug dealers. Way too many prescriptions are written for more narcotics than are necessary after surgeries with no follow-up. Many of those who are predisposed to addiction, either by genetics or coexisting mental health issues, are easy prey for those drugs that begin as legally prescribed. Once they are addicted and can no longer afford the medically prescribed version of the medication, they fall into illegal drugs, and from there, too often, the addiction has taken control of their lives. The pharmaceutical industry, along with our medical community, has to prescribe these highly addictive narcotics much more carefully and offer less addictive medication wherever possible. Most patients take these narcotics for just a couple of days after the surgery, but are provided a much longer supply where they can easily fall into the hands of the addict. Our legislators and government officials cannot be tied to the desires of the pharmaceutical lobbyist. So this is the cry that's coming up from every community in America. Just individuals saying, how did this happen to my family? How could that accident with the broken leg or the back pain turn into an opioid overdose? How could it have happened? Well, it happened because the medical community and the pharmaceutical industry have not put the protections in place for us to be able to deal with it.